This is a Rogue Media Network podcast. This is Central Texas Life with Ann Harder.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Central Texas Life. Ann Harder here, and today we're going to talk about backyard ponds. And Ron Haft, who is the chairman of the Pond Committee for the Heart of Texas Water Garden and Pond Society, is here to talk about ponds and to show you some examples of backyard ponds. And I want to learn a little bit more about this. I had the chance to come to your backyard. How long ago was that now?
2 years,
It
I
was
think.
2 years ago, and in June you do a tour.
Right.
And so I came over and did a Facebook Live to kind of help promote the tour, the backyard tour. And I'm telling you, of course, as a gardener, I know the significance and how important it is to have water in a backyard.
And this year, even the water plants are suffering.
I know it's been brutal.
Yep.
It has been brutal, but all the critters that come to a backyard pond it's important. It's important to the ecosystem that you have in your yard. Unfortunately, we have a fountain, so I guess that's sort of, but it's not like what you guys do.
Well, you can start out really small. My daughter and son-in-law down in Wimberley have what's just a fountain. It's
Yeah.
about 2 feet in diameter and 3 inches deep, and they have a drip hose running into it off a big stump.
Okay.
And they have deer and foxes and birds out there.
Yeah.
And when it gets dirty, they take the hose and blast it, and it's clean and ready to go again.
Yeah.
So you can start out really small.
Yeah. Well, so how did you get involved in this? What kind of piqued your interest? Because, I mean, you've got a pretty significant backyard pond.
I have a big investment in time. I've been working on it for about 20 years.
Yeah.
I've always liked aquatic life and rivers and lakes and fishing, things like that, and aquariums. Never got really serious and big into it when I was young, but always liked to have that stuff around.
Yeah.
And then when we still lived in Michigan 45 years ago, we had a small pond in our backyard. And that's
Was
pretty.
it there already, or you put it in?
It was a wet spot, and I had a bulldozer
Kind of a low spot
make
that-
it bigger.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so we had ducks and
Yeah.
different animals would come in.
Yeah.
But when I got to Texas, once we moved out to Lorena, I just got the urge to put a pond in, so I dug a hole, lined it, and filled it with water, and have enlarged it 6 times since then.
Yeah. It's how deep is it? It's
The big one, the latest one, is 5 feet deep.
yeah. I thought it was pretty deep.
Yeah.
Well, you have brought along some pictures, so let's get to this. I want to, and you have them in order, so you're going to kind of talk to them, and we'll drop those in so you can see them
Sure.
at home. But yeah, just to kind of get an idea of the scale of these
Okay.
ponds.
Well, the first picture is a couple little kids feeding the fish.
Uh-huh.
That's an old picture. That little blonde-headed kid is a golf pro now.
Okay.
But that's when we started. That's the original size of the original pond. But then I decided to put a waterfall in the back of it, so that took a little while.
Mm-hmm.
So this is kind of stage 2 of the pond. Since then, where they're sitting, I dug the pond out bigger, so that's been enlarged. And then, about 8 years ago, I started building what's in the second picture. That's our big koi pond.
Yeah.
So that's one. It's I think it's 16 feet by 20 feet. It's 5 feet deep. And then what I did is in the picture shows it. I got bags of ready mix concrete and just built a wall around it. And that ready mix concrete, after it's been sitting there for a little while, gets wet and it turns into big old blocks of solid cement. Mm-hmm. So I've got a double stacked wall all the way around that pond. So it's in the ground, but the edges are up above the ground a little bit too, which is great for keeping debris out. When you have leaves blowing across the
Right.
ground, if they've got to go up over a wall, you don't get as many.
Yeah. It's kind of like having a swimming pool. I mean, I guess
Yeah,
you're
it's a
always
little bit of
kind
an above ground type approach.
Right.
Although I've got hundreds of trees and shrubs.
Yeah.
So I still get a lot. But
Oh, yeah.
it's better. It's better than having them down in the ground.
Yeah.
What I did on that one, I just left some of the tools in there to show the scale of it.
Oh, it's big.
While I was working on it.
That was where I did my Facebook.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
kinda
You were standing between that one and the first
between
one.
between the ponds, yeah, and it's lovely. I mean, it was pretty toasty warm that day, but with the water around, it doesn't seem as hot.
That and like I say, I got a lot of trees back there too.
Yeah.
Actually, what I did digging that pond, I've got some friends in Kentucky that do a lot of music, so I'd put a CD on every morning. I'd go out there and I calculated. Well, I figured after it was done, if you do 6 wheelbarrow loads a day for 3 months, you've got a really nice big hole in the ground. And it's more than 16 tons. It was about 22 tons of dirt came out.
Oh my word! So where did you take it?
Well, some of it I used to build up around the pond.
Right.
And then the rest of it, I've got 2 acres. I went out to the
Yeah,
back
it's
of
a
my property.
nice lot you've got.
And there's a waterway goes through my 2 lots. So I built, like the Army did back in the 30s, I built a dike around
Yeah.
the back of my property. So when it rains, it holds the water for a few days or a week and lets it soak in. So
Yeah.
I built my own little berm out there.
Yeah. You mentioned an essay contest that you have.
Yeah, this year we decided to try to encourage kids to get involved. So we asked any of the students in the area if they wanted to write an essay and send it to us. We would provide prizes for them.
Yeah.
So we gave out $25 gift certificates or cash, whichever they wanted, to a number of different kids. And if I can, I want to read their names.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
One of the winners was Tara Jose, who was 15, and Jolene Jensen is 7, and she lives just down the road from me. She's the one I was telling you. She said, I'd like a pond, but it'd take me years to dig a hole that big.
At age of 7, she's thinking about it though.
Yeah. Eliza Smith. I don't know if you know J.B. Smith at the Trib.
Oh yeah.
That's his daughter.
That's his daughter? Oh,
she came
really?
out.
Yeah.
First thing she says, she walks up, what's the pH of your water? I said, I don't know. What are you talking about? And he told me she had gone to a class and about
What's the pH of your water?
aquaponics or something. He said
Yeah.
pH is very important.
Yeah.
And I told him,
Well, they're learning all this kind of stuff in
yeah.
school. So.
And it probably is even more important if you have a small pond.
Right.
But like if you got a lake in your backyard, do you worry about the pH?
No, I guess it
No.
is what it is.
Yeah. And Laney Bowles, who's 13, and Wyatt Bowles, 15. They all won prizes from
Oh,
us.
that's cool.
So they had some really, really nice essays that came in.
Yeah. About what, the wildlife or
Well, it was,
Just
we
the
titled
beauty
it What
of
I
it, or-
Discovered on the tour. And some of them talked about what it takes to build a pond.
Yeah.
Some of them talked about the wildlife that it draws in. Some of them talked about the beauty of God's world.
yeah.
You know, they all had their own way of looking at what a pond is and what it does.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's look at some more pictures. I mean,
Sure.
those are kind of
Yeah, the
yours. What's
next one was just with the liner in.
yeah.
The liner that goes in a pond like that, you can make solid concrete ponds, but I like the liners because then if I want to make it bigger,
Just
I can pull it out
drain
and
it,
start
pull it
again.
out, and start over.
And then the fourth picture was a view of that big pond with the koi in it. And after I built that, then I decided I needed a waterfall in back of that one. And then I put a pond in back of the waterfall. And so it keeps going.
It keeps growing.
Yeah.
It keeps growing.
Then one of my friends had some of the biggest koi in Waco, and his health got to where he couldn't maintain his pond, so he asked me if I'd take his fish. So that picture has one of the big koi in
and
there.
they can get
That-
massive.
Yeah, well, I've got several of them that are 20 pounds.
Yeah.
They're 32 inches long.
Yeah, and they need a big pond.
They
need that 5 feet.
They do.
And so they do find over the winter, even when we had Ice Mageddon, and it was
Yeah, no problem at all. It was froze solid, and we didn't have electricity, so
Really?
couldn't run heaters or pumps, and they go take a nap and wake up when it's over.
really,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, the biggest koi I've ever heard of, there was one in England a few years ago. It was 48 inches long and weighed 90 pounds. That's a lot bigger than average, though.
And not and I would think not good eating either.
I had somebody ask me on the tour, what do they taste like? I don't know. I've never eaten one. They're pretty, though.
They are pretty. They are pretty.
Then, the fifth picture there, that's just a view from the back of my pond complex, I call it, with my house is in the front there. So there's the big pond is the main part of the picture. The waterfall is on the left. The little pond is behind the big pond, and it's down about a foot. So I will they're all connected. The water goes from one to another and gets pumped back up and keeps circulating.
Circulates.
And then actually where I took that picture, I have 3 300-gallon Rubbermaid, I always want to say Tupperware, Rubbermaid stock tanks that have water lilies in them.
Oh.
So I run water into the one farthest from the pond, and then I've got 1.5-inch pipe siphons that take the water over the top into the next, over the top into the next, and then back into my main pond. So I've really got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I've got 7 ponds all connected, and the water circulates through all of them.
Sounds like a lot of engineering involved too.
Well, there's a lot of trial and error. Nothing's like it was when I started.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Then the next picture was the construction I did about, I think, 3 years ago. I started building a bog filter.
Ah.
So what I do with that is the water, well, I run 4 pumps all the time. There's a pump that takes water out of the lowest pond, pumps it underneath a little river that I built into this bog. And the bog is about 100 square feet. It's a foot deep. It's full of pea gravel. The water goes into there. I've got plants in it, which is what the next picture is once the plants grow up. And the plants take nutrients out of the water, which helps control the algae somewhat. Not this year. And then the pea gravel is a physical filter that takes a lot of the dirt out. But I still have to clean it from time to time.
Yeah, yeah. We love to watch the British gardening show, Gardener's World, and he has a Monty Don at his place. He's got a pond, and then a bog garden. He's just recently put in a bog garden. So we've kind of been watching this on television, and of course they get newts and stuff. Do we have newts in Central Texas?
Newts?
Yeah.
I haven't seen any. I know what they are.
I know. Maybe a British thing.
No,
But they talk about all the different wildlife that will come to a pond, and of course you got the tadpoles and the frogs, and so then it begs the question: do you have an issue with mosquitoes when you got that much water in your backyard, or is it always moving? And
it's always moving, so it's not a big problem. I also have in all of my smaller ponds. Well, I've got it in all of them. Gambusia fish. They're like guppies, but they're not pretty. They're just little brown minnows.
just little fish.
They get up to be about 2 inches long, a big one.
Uh-huh.
And they're like wolves on sheep when they see mosquito larvae. They just go after them, and they destroy them. So I put them also in. I've got a bunch of 22-gallon water pots that I grow water lilies in.
Yeah.
And that's all still water, so I keep that.
So you're propagating in those.
Yeah, I'm making more water lilies, but I have to keep the fish in there because they will get full of mosquitoes.
Yeah, yeah. So, we've talked about the wildlife, the aquatic life, and then there are other animals, I guess, that you have come and visit. I think I saw a picture of a fox that.
Yeah, we've had. Every few years, a family of foxes comes and lives for a while, and when they do, the rabbits are gone. There's no rabbits that year.
Yeah.
We've had a number of litters of foxes in the backyard, and I got a picture of some raccoons. I used to feed raccoons. I like raccoons.
Yeah.
And
but they'll get in your attic and mess your house up.
Well, we never had trouble until the generation this year.
Oh, really?
Two of my neighbors used to have abandoned barns on either side of us.
Yeah.
And there was a time when we had a lot of raccoons, but they never caused any problems other than getting into my fish food sometimes.
Yeah.
But this year, there's a couple new ones have come in. We hadn't been feeding them for years,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden, a couple new ones showed up, and they're tearing the rocks up on the edge of my pond looking for stuff. And
Oh.
they're being
Creating mischief.
they're not being neighborly, but
Yeah.
they aren't too bad.
Yeah, yeah.
What are we doing here, Rusty? What are we gonna do?
Yep, we're doing the King of the Hill rewatch podcast.
King of the Hill
Yes, sir.
Rewatch Podcast. Yeah, so we're gonna go through one episode at a time. Come along for the ride with us,
Come check it out.
and give me a good like Dale Gribble quote to go out on. Wingo,
Yeah, Wingo.
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 All right, well join us for the King of the Hill Rewatch Podcast.
Deep in the heart of Texas, that drinks his brew and he spits his chew. Deep in the heart of Texas, the TV blares but no one cares. Deep in the heart of Texas, here we go.
Hey, I'm Blair.
And I'm Brittany, and we're the host of
By the Cover Podcast.
We cover everything from mysteries, thrillers, romance, chick lit, and even some smut.
Don't forget the smut.
Yeah.
We're so excited to get this thing going and share this with you guys. We've been talking about this for months, and it's finally happening.
Yes,
Special shout out to Rogue Media for helping us with this.
for sure, for sure. You can find us on Instagram at @bythecover_podcast.
You can also find us on Facebook and TikTok, so don't forget to give us a follow on those two also.
And we are so excited to dive into some of our favorite books and share those with you.
We can't wait. Hope you love it.
Hi, I'm Christine, and I'm an alcoholic. Here's the deal. Everybody knows somebody that has suffered from the disease of addiction. I want to invite you to listen to Purpose Driven Sobriety, where we have real conversations with real people that have suffered from the disease of addiction and have gone on to thrive. Here, we shine light into the darkness that is addiction. You can find Purpose Driven Sobriety on Facebook or anywhere you get your podcasts.
Well, so then that brings us to the plant life, and there's so many different kinds of plants that you can have in a pond.
There is, and I don't have a lot of them in the pond because koi are like swimming pigs. If there's dirt, they're going to get in it and dig it up. So if you have like water lilies in a koi pond, they'll just tear them apart and pull them out and wallow in the mud and mess
okay.
everything up. So the koi pond doesn't have any plants in it.
Yeah.
The goldfish pond has some water lilies in there. I've got a bunch of really pretty. They're called lady blue. I think it's hard to tell about water lilies. There are 17,000 varieties. But the friend that gave them to me said she thought they were called a blue lady, but they'd had her and her husband had them for 26 years.
Yeah.
So she wasn't real sure in the name, but
Oh,
I think
really?
it's a lady blue, and it's a tropical. And I had one in the greenhouse over the winter when I brought it out to put it in the pond. It had 11 flower buds coming up at
Were
one
they
time.
Beautiful?
They really are.
Yeah,
someplace. Well, I'll get to that in a minute.
Oh, okay. Well, you got a picture.
I've got a picture of them in here someplace.
Okay.
So anyhow, after the picture with all the bog plants in it, and that's mostly cannas, and they call them umbrella palms. They're really like papyrus.
Yeah.
And I've got some bog lilies in there and some other things. And then I've got a bunch of bananas that I grow around the bog. I've got some new ones that are about 13 or 14 feet
Yeah.
tall.
Cannas like lots of water.
They love just sitting in the water.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine get about 8 feet tall, and then they fall over because they're too
Yeah,
heavy.
Yeah.
But the next picture was one of our pond members Mindy Lawrence went on our tour, I think it was 2 years ago, it might have been 3, and she really liked it, so she went home and built a pond.
Really?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
she does landscaping and interior design, so hers is really beautiful. It's like a Zen garden.
Oh, my goodness.
And then the next picture was one of our other members who has it's fairly small, but it's a really nice pond in his backyard.
Yeah. I mean, they don't have to be huge
No, they don't.
to get the impact
Yeah.
that you want.
Yeah, they can be really small. I didn't do it this year, but the last 2 years, the night before the pond tour, I set up a pond on my patio.
Yeah.
Just a tank with plants and rocks
there you
and
go.
plants and
Fill it
water
up.
running and a couple of fish in it. It's pretty nice.
Yeah.
And of course, it helps if you've already got everything you need.
I was going to say, yeah.
But
Yeah.
it doesn't take long.
Yeah.
Then I added a couple pictures of water lilies. The one with the 3 flowers, that's the lady blue, and it's got a sort of a mottled leaf, and it's really a bright blue. And then the next one is a tanzanite a friend gave me. I think that's what that one is. If it's dark, yeah, it is. It's real dark purple. And then there's another one. The next one was it's called a Juno. It's a tropical, but it's night blooming, so it opens up about 7 o'clock at night, and
Interesting.
by 10 in the morning, it's folded up and it's done for the day. And then you saw the picture of the fox. That's one of the foxes that used to hang around the house from time to time and come up and eat the cat foods.
Yeah.
If the raccoons didn't get it all.
The raccoons hadn't gotten it.
Yeah. And then the next picture was the raccoons.
Yeah.
I used to think that the most we ever had on the patio at one time was 13, and then I found this picture, and there's 16 in that
Oh,
picture.
my goodness.
And I think on the right-hand side, the far right-hand side of the picture, it looks like an ear sticking out, so it might have been
So
17.
there might have been 17.
But they never were vicious. They never were destructive. They didn't tear things apart. I used to sit out on the back patio. I've got a TV on my patio. I have a TV, a radio, and a refrigerator.
What else do you need?
I don't need a house. But I used to sit out there and watch ball games and feed them. And the little ones would get pushed out by the big ones, so
Yeah.
the little ones would come sit underneath my chair.
Because
And
they knew you were going to take care of them.
Yeah, so I could reach down and pet a little raccoon
Aw.
from time to time. It is legal, I understand, to have raccoons as pets in Texas,
Yeah.
but they're
Be careful,
They're
yeah.
dangerous animals.
Be very careful. I have a friend who was attacked.
Yeah,
by
they
one,
can
yeah.
be.
Yeah, they'll
and if
get
you corner them,
Yeah, they'll
you
get
you lose.
Well, how many people are involved in the Heart of Texas Water Garden and Pond Society?
I think we have about 38 members right now.
Yeah.
We've been,
And you meet regularly?
we meet the third Tuesday of every month. Usually at somebody's house, but we also sometimes go to a restaurant or
Well, it's always nice to
meeting
kind of
place.
see what.
Yeah, the last couple of
folks.
years we've been doing a lot more going to visit somebody's house. We also meet out at Waco Wetlands periodically.
Oh, yeah. What a wonderful place
Yeah,
that is.
and that's why we do the pond tour. Well, that's our excuse for doing it. We collect donations
Yeah,
for the Waco
for the
Wetlands when we have our
That-
pond tour.
Man, that has really been a significant addition to Central Texas.
It's a pretty interesting place out there. Yeah.
Yeah. People need to go out and check that out if they haven't in a while. But it'll be June before your next pond tour. I guess that's kind of when you like to do that. But if folks are interested in learning more about ponding, can we call it that?
Yeah,
but
that's what we call it.
That's what you call it. And to have that maybe addition in your backyard or thought about doing that, then obviously people like yourself that could give some good advice.
We have a lot of members that are willing to advise. Some of them are willing to work. Some of them can't. I mean,
Well, right.
I'm one of the younger ones.
Okay.
But there's, we help each
Kind of like
other up.
the Irish Society is kind of like
Yeah. It's got a whole lot of things I'm involved in where
Yeah.
everybody's getting old.
Yeah, that's right. We just but you do what you can do. But
Yeah.
you really have. It's just a fascinating subject for me. I mean, I'm really interested.
Well, we have a website,
Mm-hmm.
and it's hotwgps.com. And there's information there about our meetings, about our club. Usually when we do the pond tour, we'll have a guide online that shows all the ponds, talks about them, and we usually keep that up for a year or two. So if you want to see what
can
you
go
missed,
and-
you can go see it.
Yeah. Oh, how fabulous.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, I like to end these little visits with a little questionnaire, similar to the one the late, great James Lipton would give on Inside the Actor's Studio, if that rings a bell. I don't know.
I've seen that.
It was a long time ago
I'm
that
done.
he was on. But no. Okay, what is your favorite word?
I don't have a favorite word.
You don't?
I can't. Well, this is going to be tough.
That's
can tell.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, but do you have a least favorite word, or word you just...
Oh yeah, but I can't say that.
Okay, all right, enough said.
I have several least favorite words.
Okay. I want to ask this of a ponder. What turns you on creatively or spiritually or emotionally?
I like to see the water flowing. It's whether I'm draining a mud puddle or cleaning a culvert or putting together the pond complex. The water is flowing a lot of different ways in different directions, and I just like to see the whole thing moving around.
What turns you off creatively or emotionally or spiritually?
Well, I'm involved with a lot of musicians, and criticism,
Yeah.
I think, really turns people off. I mean,
Yeah.
just because it's not what you like, or just because they're not as good as you think you are, that's no reason to put somebody down. Just encourage them, tell them that was cool. I've one of the things I really liked is I used to go to workshops, and I was by far the worst musician there. But sometimes people would say, "How'd you do that?"
Yeah, I like that lick
Yeah.
or whatever. Yeah.
You're 10 times as good as I am, but
Oh.
I did something that he hadn't seen before. So that's always cool.
Well, then, what sound do you love the most as a musician? Or not a musician, what sound do you love? I mean, you mentioned water. I hear that from a lot of people as moving water.
Yeah, there's an emotional connection there.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
like
there is.
I like acoustic guitar,
Yeah. Yeah.
nylon string acoustic guitar.
There you go. What sound do you hate?
Fax machine syncing up. Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that, but it's
Oh yeah,
a definite.
yeah. That's
it's a
not the
thing.
number I meant to call.
That's right. Okay, what other? I didn't even ask you what you did professionally. We were just talking about Pond Society.
Well, I started off as an engineer and got into computers.
I guess where I got the engineer part. I think
Yeah,
I
and-
remember that from talking to you a long time ago. Then what profession would you have liked to have tried?
Well, I always wanted to command a destroyer in the U.S. Navy,
Well, there you go.
but they wouldn't take me because my eyes were too bad. So they said, you can be a logistics officer or an engineering officer. I quit the Navy and went into the Army, got out of the Army, and spent my entire life in logistics and engineering.
There you go. There you go. What job do you know you would not want to have?
Job I don't want. I've always enjoyed every job I had.
Yeah,
I never found one I didn't like.
No, but is there something out there you go, I appreciate them doing that. I just don't want to do that.
Yeah. No, I can't really think of anything that I just know I would hate.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, that's excellent. That's excellent. And last question: when you arrive at the pearly gates, what do you want to hear the good Lord say?
Come in.
Yeah. Those would be good words to hear. Well, you are just doing an amazing thing, and I have thoroughly enjoyed knowing you, Ron, and to hear about ponding and learn a little bit more about it. In a perfect world, my backyard would include a pond besides our little fountain that we have. But that sound of running water it's calming, and
Yeah.
and it's good for the environment.
Yeah, and well, you've got a fountain already, but you can have some pretty elaborate pondless fountains and waterfalls, and
Yeah.
they just go into a tub in the ground and get pumped right back up, and there's no pond; it's just water running
Just
all the time.
Have that nice sound all the time. Might have to have you come over and give us some advice. Well, so again, how can they get in touch with the Heart of Texas Water Garden? And
The
Pond Society?
easiest way is on the website,
Uh-huh.
hotwgps.com, and there's a place to request information.
Yeah.
There's a place to download a form to join the organization. I think our membership fees are $30 a year now for a couple. And you get your monies back at the first plant exchange.
Yeah.
You know, you get a water lily. They
Yeah.
cost $30 to
I was
go
going to
buy
say
one.
easily. Yeah. Well, it's a great work you're doing, and I appreciate so much your time. Ron Haft, so appreciate what you're doing with the ponds and beautifying Central Texas this way.
Try to keep something green.
I know. And we appreciate you being with us, so join us again next time for Central Texas Life. Bye-bye.
Central Texas Life with Ann Harder is part of the Rogue Media family. Be sure to check out our other shows at roguemedianetwork.com. Please rate this show 5 stars on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, or anywhere you get your podcasts. Join us again soon for more Central Texas Life with Ann Harder. This has been a Rogue Media Network production.